Captain Mikhail Sorokin was exhausted. After 2 decades of service in the United Allied Forces, his record was pristine, but the scars were etched into his mind. For the last year, his team had fought endlessly against an alien force known as the Varix A species, known for its overwhelming numbers, advanced technology, and fierce dedication to wiping out any race they deemed a threat. Sorokin's latest assignment was on Karvos, a barren planet on the edge of human-controlled space. The orders were clear: hold the line. His outpost, codenamed the Last Fortress, had a singular objective: protect the star system at all costs. The fortress was humanity's last hope to keep the Varix from reaching the populated systems beyond Karvos. The fortress was fully automated, bristling with heavy artillery, anti-air defenses, and ground traps that made it one of the most fortified positions in the galaxy. But the fortress was still only as good as the crew manning it. Sorokin had his squad, all seasoned soldiers and engineers, and he trusted them with his life. As they prepared for the next wave, Sorokin gathered his crew in the main command room, a spacious dome with an observation deck offering a sweeping view of the barren, rocky plains that lay outside. "Listen up, team! We're here for one reason: to give humanity a fighting chance. We're the last line of defense. If the Varix break through, there's nothing to stop them from reaching Earth. I need every one of you on your A game. This isn't just another mission, this is it." His words hung in the air, and a grim determination filled the room. They each nodded in understanding, and the team dispersed to their posts. Everyone knew what was at stake. The hours stretched on, and soon, the familiar blip on the radar appeared. The Varix fleet was approaching again. Sorokin could see the outlines of the Varix ships in the distance. They were vast and intimidating, with sleek black hulls and red glowing engines. They looked like shadows come to life, moving silently through the void. As the Varix descended, the fortress's automated turrets opened fire, and the battle began in earnest. Blasts from the heavy artillery filled the air, the sound echoing through the fortress walls as Varix ships exploded in the sky. But the Varix were relentless, throwing wave after wave of soldiers at the fortress. Their numbers seemed infinite. For hours, Sorokin and his team held the line. But as the day wore on, the Varix managed to breach the outer defenses. Ground forces began pouring through the gap, forcing Sorokin and his team to switch from defending the walls to close-quarters combat inside the fortress itself. Sorokin led his team with precision, directing them to bottleneck hallways and trapping Varix soldiers in ambush points. But the relentless tide wore them down. Sorokin's second-in-command, Lieutenant James Kwan, took a hit while protecting the western corridor, and they lost 2 other members by the time they pushed the Varix back. Just when it seemed like they were about to catch a break, the lights dimmed and a high-pitched alarm echoed through the corridors. The AI voice calmly stated, "Primary reactor power at 30%. Auxiliary power engaged." Sorokin cursed under his breath. The reactor was failing. If it went offline completely, the fortress's defenses would crumble, and they'd be exposed to the Varix horde. He gathered the remaining crew in the command room, where they huddled around the flickering holographic map of the fortress. His eyes met each of theirs, and in that moment, he saw the same unbreakable resolve that kept him going all these years. "We're going to have to get to the reactor and reboot it manually," Sorokin said. "Kwan, how much time do we have before it completely shuts down?" Kwan, grimacing from his wound but still standing, replied, "About 15 minutes tops." Sorokin nodded. "All right, here's the plan. Kwan, Mendoza, and I will head to the reactor. The rest of you stay here and hold the command room. If we fail, you're the last line of defense." The team split up, and Sorokin led Kwan and Mendoza down to the lower levels, where the reactor lay. The journey was harrowing. The fortress was silent except for the occasional echo of gunfire in the distance. The dim emergency lights cast long, eerie shadows, and Sorokin couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. As they reached the reactor room, the door hissed open, and they entered cautiously. The room was massive, with the reactor itself towering in the center, humming and pulsing with energy. But the room wasn't empty. A squad of Varix soldiers was already there, tampering with the reactor controls. Sorokin wasted no time. He fired the first shot, and the room erupted in chaos. The Variks were fierce, but Sorokin's team was fueled by desperation. They fought with everything they had, pushing the Variks back one step at a time. Just as the last Varik soldier fell, Sorokin ran to the control panel and initiated the reactor reboot sequence. The hum of the reactor grew louder, and the lights flickered back to life. Power surged through the fortress, and the defensive systems came back online. But Sorokin's relief was short-lived. The Variks fleet outside had regrouped, and they were preparing for a final assault. This would be the last stand. He and his team returned to the command room, where the others were waiting, bruised but ready. As he looked at his team, his family, he felt a surge of pride. They had fought for each other, for humanity, and for the future. They would stand together until the end. As the Variks closed in, Sorokin raised his rifle and gave a final order. For humanity! The battle that followed was fierce and unforgiving. Every member of the team fought with everything they had, and the Variks finally began to falter, the onslaught slowing as the Variks' forces were nearly exhausted. Finally, the Variks retreated. Against all odds, the last fortress had held.